Hi, Steve Stahlberg here with Pinup number 27, one of the 2 May rewards in my Patreon subscription. It's another one based on an older rough I've had laying around for a few years. I call her Princess Periwinkle. Those are her namesake flowers all around her on the ground too, and the gnome, I just call him Gnome Man, as in the pun, no man does it better. I start with the sketching. As usual, I keep the sketch on its own layer. This one was harder than it may look like. If you compare it to most of my other pinups, this one was tougher to do for me. 2 characters instead of one, a foot, naked foot and toes, always difficult. 4 hands, fingers, oh, lots of tricky anatomy, lots of detail, cloth, flowers, hair, jewelry, etc. By the way, sorry for my voice, I have a cold right now. Skipping ahead a bit there. It is quite a tedious process to watch. I probably should have speeded it up a bit more. And what's gonna happen next is I'm gonna go looking for reference for the background, which is gonna be basically birch trees. And what I did there was I simply used Google Images and found a good one. Just grab one. Sometimes you can grab several, of course, but in this case I only grabbed one, and you'll see it soon after this, where I'm sketching the face in more detail. I actually missed it there. And this is the one. I wanted that open, pure birch kind of feeling with nothing but birch and not much on the ground. Almost an architectural feeling of a room with white pillars in it. Anyway, they don't form a large part, they just form a bit of a backdrop there, and actually I'm kept merging them more and more into the background, making them less and less important. I masked and flattened out colors and divided them up logically on layers, as I always do. And I was painting the ground there a little bit with a textured brush, painting the flowers. Some flowers are on a layer, and the rougher flowers are on the background layer. Next I start shading. all pretty straightforward. I'm imagining the lighting roughly from the top straight down, maybe slightly more from our left side, and maybe slightly more pointing a bit away from us. Having some flowers on a layer like that enabled me later to copy that layer and make like a drop shadow. But you have to be careful when you do that. You have to blur it, and you have to make it transparent. You have to make it subtle, because the flowers aren't obviously sitting on a flat sheet of paper. It's a very rough ground underneath that layer of flowers, so you have to be careful so it doesn't look like a typographical drop shadow. But yeah, a slight touch of subtle drop shadow, you can certainly do that in a situation like this. You can check the final for that. I didn't actually go through that part here in this video. I'm masking her skin here using airbrush, remember, very carefully and discriminately. Availing myself of the edge of the masking. Not going freehand with that airbrush. Except very carefully and discriminately in some cases. Like see here, for instance, I'm masking and then I'm using both sides of the mask, just inverting it, and then after a while, when I've got the darkness, when I've got the shading to be as dark as I need it to be, I take away the mask and just a few extra touches of freehand airbrush on top of. But you gotta keep masking. You gotta have the masking in there somewhere. Starting with the detailing on the dress and the jewelry. These are very time-consuming parts, of course. I think jewelry is perhaps the most time-consuming thing that you could even try. Especially when you have lots of jewelry all over the place. Like, I wanted her to be looking like a princess, so she needed to have some bits and pieces on her ears, on her wrists, around her bicep, on her shoulders, and a crown and a necklace around her neck. Later I extended those feathers out, upwards and outwards to overlap the thigh of the leg a little bit back there for compositional reasons. Also anatomical reasons. Right now her shoulder is too low anatomically, pose-wise. It makes her pose look a bit strained. As you can see here, doing part of it there. Later I actually did push the feathers even further, overlapping the thigh. I scaled them up and pulled them sideways. I think I even added a couple more feathers at the back of the epaulette. And here I'm just winging it. I'm just sort of making shapes, abstract shapes almost. I don't really have a plan here. The main shape I wanted to keep it flower shaped, but as for the details inside, I don't even know what the heck I was doing. Correcting perspective here. And the face. This was a very difficult face, I have to say. I struggled with it quite a bit. And the hands. It's another tricky area. Coming up is a bit of a jump cut, because I spent longer than usual polishing the piece with the camera off. Here, as you can see, I was running out of time, sorry for that. But it would have made quite tedious watching anyway. What I did was finish the hands, the jewelry, the crown, the gnome's face, darken the background a bit. I detailed the flowers, of course, and the hair. Well, that's it anyway. Thanks for watching. Bye.